As we begin our conversation today on The Big Impact, I'm flashing back to a time when I was much younger. I had hair then, and I used to watch TV far too much, including game shows. And in those days, when you had to get up and literally turn the dial to change the channel, there weren't that many channels and there weren't that many game shows. Now, of course, there's an entire network dedicated to the game show. And our guest today is one of the newest hosts in that genre. Brooke Burns, who is the host of Masterminds on the Game Show Network, is kind enough to spend some time with us. It is good to see you there in the warmth of Los Angeles today. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. Hanging in there with all of this craziness of the pandemic.
It is an unusual time to launch a game show, but now that I think about it, with everybody sort of sequestered in their homes, maybe there couldn't be a better time.
It's kind of perfect. I kept saying that it's really been a blessing to shoot our first season in February, and then out here in California, we had the lockdown in March. We opened up a little bit in October, where we shot our second season, which is the one that's premiering this week, and now we just shut down again. So, yeah, just in time to sit at home and watch Masterminds every day, Monday to Friday.
Well, we have a lot of Brooke Burns' story to explore because, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, she didn't begin hosting game shows from birth. There's been a journey to get to this point. So I want to go back, before we go to where we are now, I'd love to go back into the young Brooke Burns, what life was like, where you lived, what the family structure was like, and then we can start to build through some of your personal story.
Sure, absolutely. I was born in Dallas, Texas. My mom and dad have one of those great stories where they met in first grade, danced in fourth grade, married when they were 19, and have been together ever since. My dad was a part of starting a church in Dallas that's still going today. He's an elder of that church, Sojourn. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad also did missionary work with us growing up. And I spent a good part of my 12-year-old year actually living in Romania and dancing with the Romanian opera ballet. I was a ballerina growing up. That was my love and my passion. And I did that until I tore my ACL in my left knee and was incapacitated for quite a while, starting with one of those stories of trying to overcome. That was really what I thought I would do for the rest of my life: get married, have 6 kids, live in Texas, and possibly teach ballet. God had other plans.
I will say that that's a rather unusual approach to the world of entertainment, starting off as a ballerina. You don't see that path. Usually it's child actor, local theater, got my big break kind of a thing. So when you're young, when you're in those preteen years, and something that you thought was going to be your life forever is literally physically taken away, what's that recovery process like? Is it mom and dad putting their arms around you and saying, Brooke, it'll be okay? Or is it you just devastated?
Devastating was really the word that it was for me. It was my love and my passion. And, the only thing that I can say that is kind of, I guess, adds to my entertainment future from that was that I had a love of performing, but I never, my parents weren't in entertainment. I really thought I would probably continue on the mission field in some way, and never leave Texas. But that was really the catalyst for my mom just to get me out of a depression, put me in a modeling camp for a week. And through that, I was afforded a lot of opportunities to travel, and I was, asked to be a part of a couple different modeling agencies in Europe. So I started traveling at a very young age, doing that as well. And then was kind of told, you have a really fun personality. You shouldn't just be doing photographs. You should be doing commercials or television. And it was completely foreign to me. I just had no idea of even how to go down that road. So God really had to just open doors for me and make it kind of impossible not to follow through, well, I guess is the best way of putting it.
You know what that means? It means that somewhere in a box, in a storage unit somewhere, in an archive, there are some tapes of very embarrassing early Brooke Burns commercials or jingles or whatever, because in my world, I started as a little boy doing commercials for my father's car dealerships, and they were really, really bad, really bad. And we would really like to never see those tapes again.
I'm going to bury mine with yours, okay?
Good.
Find like a little page, a little plot, and like put them all in together. Yeah, but it was interesting because in those early years, a lot of my early commercials I got because I was a dancer. So again, you know, God knows better than we do. He sort of, you know, kind of just got me in the door with different things like that. I remember doing like a double mint gum commercial where I was doing like double pirouettes and double kicks and all that kind of stuff. So,
do you remember the first time that somebody said to you, you know, Brooke, I think you could make a go out of this kind of thing. I think that being in front of a camera is really what you're made for. And you maybe looked at him like, I want to be a ballerina.
I do remember one specific incident growing up in Dallas. My mom and I had sort of a tradition of going to breakfast together at the original Pancake House and eating Dutch babies. And there was a gentleman who was there who ran all of the advertising and marketing for J.C. Penney. And he came up to me and he said, you know, you should look into modeling and acting and commercials because you have a really fresh face. And I had, you know, a stack of pancakes this big in front of me. And I looked at him and I was like, no, thanks. I'm a dancer. But after I hurt my knee snow skiing, my mom really remembered that and was like, you know, why not try, Brookie? You know, you're not going to dance for a while during your rehab. Let's give it a go. And she drove me around to about 1,000 casting calls and auditions and what have you. And it really did save me at that time from feeling just really low and really down because my identity was, you know, as a dancer.
Well, one of the things that I appreciate about even what you've shared to this point is the consistent referencing back to the support of your parents. And I think about the young people that I come in contact with now, whether it's in broadcast or in other aspects of ministry or consulting, that in many respects, they're out there kind of trying to do all of this on their own. Maybe mom and dad don't agree with the choice, or maybe mom and dad aren't together and it's not a very healthy family dynamic. Can you kind of speak to what that meant to your, not just career, but your life, to know that you had the support of mom and dad?
You know, it's so funny that you say that. And it brings tears to my eyes, you know, just even having you say that, because it's so true. I know in my heart that the foundation that my parents gave me, not only, you know, in being together, their love for me, their support of me through many evolutions of my life, completely impact who I am, the decisions that I make today, the success that I've been able to have. I definitely attribute, you know, to them being there and guiding me through it and really sitting me down and talking me through my decisions and helping me and guiding me. And that's something that you're right. You don't hear a lot of, you know, children as much now, at least. You know, there's so much about the independence and like, you know, like doing it on my own and all of that. But, you know, it does take a village, and that wisdom and knowledge coming from the generation before you, even if they're not in the same field as you, can help shape and create, you know, things that do impact, principles that impact you no matter where you are. Integrity, being a woman of my word. That was so important to my, you know, my father always telling me how to translate and create wisdom from knowledge, you know, not just having the knowledge, but applying the knowledge and using it wisely, the gifts that you've been given, and that you're blessed to be a blessing, you know? And, yeah, so those are all really, I just wouldn't have had them without that kind of launch board of my mom and dad. And I'm so grateful.
Well, I would have to think that, especially with where you currently are living and working in an incredibly liberal and faith-free zone, I think we could largely consider Hollywood to be. I don't think I'll get in too much trouble for saying that Hollywood is not known for its faith-based foundation. I would like to think that then having that background helps build a pretty firm foundation for you at times when some of those integrity moments come about. I have to guess, Brooke. You and I don't know each other. We've talked now for 11 minutes. I would have to think that at some point along your journey, you had been offered things that did not fit with your faith or with your just your values, but they may have carried a sizable paycheck with them. And I'm wondering if you can share with us what some of those moments look like, and then how your foundation of faith helped you make those decisions.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, from starting off, once I tore my ACL snow skiing and I was living in Europe and I was modeling, there were a lot of opportunities, in the modeling world, for fame or the cover of a certain magazine, but you have to do this many of them, topless, or you have to do this and, in Europe, and don't be an American prude. And, you hear it all sort of as you work your way through. But it was always, I would just always, be able to go back and talk about it with my parents and really go, what's the impact of that? And what is it that, as a 15, 16, 17-year-old girl, you may think, oh, this is like, such a big opportunity. Like, is it really going to hurt me in the future or whatever? But they were just there really to protect me. And they never really were like, listen, this is a hardcore no. It was more, let's talk it through. Let's talk about who you are, who you want to become, what your platform is that you want to create. And sort of, I guess, before branding was like a thing, that was like, what do you want your brand to be? And my love has always been children and championing children. I always say if I wasn't an actress or a host, that I would probably have been a preschool teacher. And, growing human beings and really speaking into not only their physical development, their emotional development, their intellectual development, but also their spiritual development. And so a lot of those early choices, my parents would say, that's not going to reflect that. And you're going to have certain doors closed that you want open because of that. So how do you open the doors that are going to continue to open in that direction of what you really believe is your calling and your gifting and your passion in life?
Our guest
and
here,
entertainment.
Yeah. Our guest here on The Big Impact is Brooke Burns. She is the host of Masterminds, a new game show on the Game Show Network. And just as they were getting fired up to do a bunch of new episodes for season 1, of course, COVID did its thing. COVID is consistently doing its thing, and you'll be able to see it, though. Go to Game Show Network, and it's a partnership, from what I understand, that somehow connects Brooke into the world of Bill Gaither and the Gaither music genre, which, hey, I'm as big a fan of David Phelps. He's been on this program. So has Larnell Harris. So has Russ Taff. So I'm a big fan of a number of the personalities involved with the Gaither world, but I've never understood how it lent itself into the Game Show Network. So what have you learned about that man and his vision for how all of this comes together?
Well, it's true. It's a new sort of partnership that they've created. But I think what they have discovered, not dissimilar sort of to my journey of working with GSN and other companies like Hallmark and what have you, is that a huge part of their base is, in the Christian world. And, from everything to like adding biblical trivia questions into the shows to sort of having that family programming that you can sit down and you can watch with your children, with your parents. It goes across generations, and the importance of family, which is a big part of their brand, really fits in well with the Christian dynamic and the sort of just the way that that you value family and being and working with people who have consistent values with, biblical principles.
I used to think, in fact, I did some speaking about the influence of media on families. And I used to make a very clear point that the bottom line for most of the decisions made in the world of entertainment was the bottom line. It was dollar oriented. And I've actually kind of morphed a little bit from that position over the years, because I'm not so sure that hard dollars and cents are what guides Hollywood anymore. It really does seem to be more ideological and trying to make a point, even if it loses you money. And one of the supporting pieces of evidence that I draw upon for that conclusion is kind of like what you're describing now. There are tens of millions of people in America who want to be able to turn on the TV with the family or the grandkids are over and just not be ashamed, embarrassed, or have to dive for the remote because of a commercial that comes on or a scene that's unfolding in this program. And here you are now with this game show network program, and it's finally one of those moments where you can just sit down with the whole family and not have to worry about explaining something later. Grandma, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I don't why. Maybe you've been in Hollywood certainly for a good number of years. Do you have any theories as to why or how that shift took place so that, I don't know, half of the country is literally scorned and looked down upon because they have values that would be safe for their family?
That's a tough one, and probably, on a deeper business ideological, as you were saying, level, where people are making those choices that have been examining the content and as you're saying, like the numbers of that and like, why is that happening? But I do believe that, even in going through 2020 and this pandemic coming and hitting us out of left field where we just never thought we would be dealing with something like this in our lifetime, I think that it's really, shaken people to the core in maybe, for a positive spin on it, to really examine what it is that we're doing with the hours of our life and the time that we're spending and what we're spending it doing. And, as all of us have been confined to our homes for much more time than maybe what we normally would be, during this age, it's really, I think, been a time of reflection for a lot of people. And we've realized that sort of the rat race and the making the money, and go, though, helpful and impactful in another way, that what fulfills your soul is not always connected to that. That the time that we are able to spend with our families is so much more important. I mean, and it's true, there's so many different media outlets now. There's so much television to be seen and movies and all of that, content coming at you. It's just everywhere. But that one of the things that I love about being a part of a game show is that, it's not just that you sit down and you can watch something together where you aren't dodging for the remote, but you can watch it with your 10-year-old, you can watch it with your parent who's in their 70s, but that it also creates conversation. It means you're together. It means you're with them. It means that you're spending valuable time together, that even if one question can spark some kind of conversation, or the reason I know the answer to this question is because of this life experience that I had. And oh my gosh, I never knew that about you, Dad, Mom, whatever it is. And now you're opening up those lines of communication again. And it is almost like we're going back in time to the family dinner. We're all sitting around and actually connecting and, looking into each other's eyes. And in a weird way, it's television that points you back to your family versus away from your family.
That's an interesting way to look at it, because we have become gatherers around the screens, maybe more than at any point in history, because we, we're not like we're going out to dinner or doing a number of other fun things or getting together with friends, or the list keeps going on and on. So at some point, did you say to your representatives or even to yourself, you know what, I'd kind of like to take a crack at a game show one of these days? So was that something that was even on your list of possible to-dos? I wouldn't think many people have that dream.
Some people do, which I've discovered, in the trivia world and people who've watched game shows since they were young. I did not. Again, I didn't grow up in entertainment. My focus had always been my family. And part of getting into game shows was what was created from that. When I was told I could never have children. And when I was 21, I actually got pregnant with my oldest daughter. And I wanted to be home more. Working in the entertainment industry, if you're acting, you can be taken away. You move to another country, you move to another city for 9 months at a time. It's a very transient life. And hosting really afforded me the opportunity to stay local in LA. I wanted her to live in a home, not a house. And, so in a way, hosting really afforded me more time as a mom. And that's where it really started from. And then I think just as it progressed, over the years, and I fell in love with it, I started in competition and then, kind of segued more into the trivia side of it. But it was something that I discovered along the way, that my values and putting my family first were actually supported by this kind of television making. And I loved that. And the same that you just said, like when I work for Hallmark or I do a movie, when I receive the script, normally I would be looking through it going, oh gosh, okay, what's going to be in here that I'm not going to be able to do, that I don't want my dad to see, that I don't want my child to see, that I don't want to say, and then it's on, film forever. And when you work for, Game Show Network or Hallmark, it feels safe. And I'm like, now it's just about, do I like the character? Do I like the story? Do I have the time and want to go and do that? But I know it's not going to compromise my integrity in any way. If anything, it lifts it.
Yeah, I saw a video just a couple days ago. It was online, and it was a behind the scenes in a voiceover studio for a very popular animated show that's been on for a number of years. And in this scene, we were able to see the video of how a child was voicing one of the characters. Well, the character, and I don't really watch the show, but this moment, I always like behind the scenes stuff. The character was cursing, and the father of this little girl was holding the little girl in his arms. She might have been 4, I don't know. And he was having her just say a phrase at a time. And sometimes it was, I don't want that, or I'd like that. And that was fine. And then all of a sudden, he's telling the girl to repeat after daddy, and she's breaking out some stuff that I could not believe. And I thought to myself, how desperate are you for a paycheck? Yeah. That you would not only allow your daughter to say those things, but you would kind of make her say those things and make her say them several times over so that they came out the way that you wanted to. I mean, I'm telling you, Brooke, if I had any hair left, I'd have been pulling it out. It was just a jarring moment of a cultural disintegration and I don't want to sound like the old get off my lawn guy, but I found it wildly inappropriate. I could not believe it was happening. And I'm glad to hear you kind of walk us through some of the thought processes, because when scripts come along, for the most part, my understanding is that most actors and actresses don't ask if they could revise it. They just do it because they need the gig. That's true. Over the years, I have no doubt you've faced those moments.
Oh, sure. And that makes it very difficult. As you said, in a world where every job counts, I mean, there is no such thing as job security. If you're being offered anything, you're like, yes, please, I really, really need this. And that becomes a very difficult, line to know where to draw that. But again, just like, to your point with the story, I'm such an advocate of children. That little 4-year-old girl doesn't know what she's saying.
No.
She doesn't know, you know what I mean? The impact of that. And that's not really her choice. You can't say, well, she wanted to do it. Well, there's lots of things that 4-year-olds want to do that, you may not know how that impacts you in the future. And I feel like a lot of times parents don't think that way for their kids. Raising a child is such a huge responsibility. And you're forming not only the opportunities that you're giving to them, but it's also your job to protect them from opportunities. And that they're proud of everything that, going forward that they have created or been a part of. And certainly, people make mistakes and what have you, but that's a little young to be putting that on a child.
I was ready to give him a lecture, and I don't even know who the person was. So, I must be truly getting old. We're going to take another break here on The Big Impact. When we come back, we'll talk with Brooke Burns specifically about Masterminds in the world of game shows, because goodness, it's all good news. You can win cash and prizes. Back with more in a moment. We continue here on The Big Impact with our guest, Brooke Burns. She is the host of Masterminds on Game Show Network. You've seen her in a number of other films and TV shows over the years. And Brooke, I would have to think that if this is your first venture into game show hosting, that perhaps you did some film study, as we like to say in sports, where you'd break down the film of other people hosting and that kind of thing. And having recently lost Mr. Trebek after a incredible career that will likely never be matched. I'm wondering if you had anybody that you turned to and said, can I watch how you do this? Maybe live in person or perhaps on tape?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, I sort of by accident as a single mom when I was 24 years old, just asked my agent to please try to find something. I had just recently gone through a divorce and I needed a job desperately. And I said, like, bring me everything, TV, film, hosting, whatever it is, I'll look at it all. And it was really just God that got me in the door for a show called Dog Eat Dog, which was a competition game show, really at the early part of like reality TV. And, I was an athlete growing up. I was a swimmer and a dancer. So I loved that competition aspect of it. But moving into the trivia, the GSN, the Game Show Network, gave me my first opportunity there with The Chase when we brought over that UK format to America. And it was very daunting at first, for sure. But again, I just feel like, a lot of the things that God gifted me with as a child maybe drove my parents crazy. My dad used to always say, you're too sensitive and you talk too much. And I always tell him now, I get paid for both of those things now. In the acting, you have to be sensitive and empathic. And in hosting, I do. I have to talk a lot. Sometimes I'm like an auctioneer. I've got to speak very quickly and articulately. So we have a good laugh about that in my family now.
All right. So what is Masterminds for people who are ready for something fresh in their entertainment rotation? What is this show all about, and how is Ken Jennings a part of it? Because this is a Hall of Fame name in the world of game shows.
Absolutely. We're so, lucky to have him come and work with us on Masterminds. We have 3 Masterminds on our show: Ken Jennings, trivia legend; Muffy Morocco, who's our historian; and Jonathan Corblaw, who's our chess wizard. And they play against 3 contestants. We do every kind of trivia: multiple choice, one question answer, speed, and then we have a final round of 5 questions where the final mastermind and the final contestant go head to head, and the contestant can win $10,000, come back to play again for up to $30,000. And something fun about the show is that if they can beat our masterminds 3 times, they will become a mastermind and can possibly take the place of one of our masterminds on the stage. So in that way, it's really fun. And again, like you said, it's something you learn a little something and you have some fun, and you can yell your answers at the TV or start a little internal competition within your family.
Now, hearing you describe that I would have to beat Ken Jennings at something in order to win sounds to me like I would also have to dunk over LeBron James in order to get new tennis shoes. So help me understand this a little bit.
Sure. That was my first question when they were telling me about the show as well. I was like, but can anybody beat Ken Jennings?
Right,
is
exactly.
The show actually winnable? And it is, because as I like to say, though he knows so many things and a myriad of categories, you never know when you're going to catch someone out. You never know if the wording of a question or a life experience that you've had, maybe he didn't live in Romania like I did when I was 12, and he doesn't know Tu vorbești românește, that means I speak Romanian, So, and again, with like Beastie on The Chase, he was from the UK. He had no idea which ice cream chain was 31 flavors. And I was like, Baskin Robbins, it's like the easiest question of all time. But he didn't know it. So even though they do, they've been in the trivia world for forever, there are ways that you can catch them out. And that's what I love about the show, is that it's all random. It can be pop culture. It can be historical. It can be things that, you wish, you knew from long ago, or it could be things that are absolutely meaningless that you're like, I don't need to know this for any other reason that it may get me $10,000 on Mastermind.
You and I just thought about this. You and I are speaking on the day of the premiere. The show begins on December 7th. That's when you and I are speaking. A lot of our audience will hear this at another time. Are you nervous? Are you excited? What's the evening going to be like when you get the remote in hand and watch yourself?
Well, East Coast time right now, the show is airing.
Right.
So I'm actually with you right now instead of worrying about what's happening online for my premiere. But I'll find out when we get off how well the first show did. So thank you for taking my mind off of it.
Well, okay, so I've not had national debuts of anything at any point. Are there butterflies? I know it's already in the can. You can't change it, but what goes through your mind, through your stomach? What's the nerve factor like?
For me, it's like game day is when we're shooting, and that's when I still get nervous before I get out there. Even though the format, we do 6 shows a day, that it's an intense schedule. We just like bang them out. We're done in 3 weeks. We shoot 65 shows, and but each time, it's different and it's something new because the contestants are new for every show, so they bring a different energy and all of that. And
I think I'm hearing. I think the dings that I'm hearing all these dings. I think people are texting you because they're watching it right now. Is that what it is?
Yeah, maybe it is. Although I have my phone on silent, so it's something happening through my computer. I apologize for that.
I think it's people reaching out saying, "Brooke, you're on TV."
Or my husband's having an emergency with a 3.5-year-old or something. Like, what do I feed her for dinner?
That reminds me, Brooke. We have to get to this before we run out of time. The children in Brooke's life are 19. 18.
2018
and 3. Did you have a busy 15-year stretch that we just didn't read about?
Well, I think I told you, starting out, I always wanted to be a mom. I thought I would have 6 kids. I suffered with cervical cancer early in my life. I was told I would never have a child, and another devastating, moment for me. But again, God had different plans. Maddie, my miracle baby, when I was 21, and then my 18-year-old is my stepdaughter, and little Declan Wells, 3.5, my second miracle baby. So yes, there were a lot of years in there. We tried for a long time for little Declan to be here with us, and she is just a ball of joy and light.
Okay. At the exact moment when you informed your husband that there was a child on the way, could you take us to that reaction?
You're going to make me start crying again. Well, if it says anything about how important and impactful it was, I wrote it in lipstick on his bathroom mirror. We had lost 2, a little boy and twins in previous years before, and I had told him this is the last time that I can emotionally handle, trying again. And I was so scared that I wrote, "We are pregnant" on his bathroom mirror, but underneath it, I put day 1. And every day for the entire pregnancy, I would go and write in lipstick on our bathroom mirror, day 2, day 3, day 4, and our prayers and stuff remain to this day. She's going to be 4. And he said, "I'm never washing this off the mirror." So if you come to our house, the master bathroom mirror is covered in daily worries and prayers and praise reports of her heartbeat and her growth, and all the way
are you
her very health.
Are you still updating the days?
No, not anymore.
1,000.
Yeah, after she came into the world, you know how it is. It's like, then they just take over your lives. I don't have time to write on the bathroom mirror anymore.
Wow, that is so cool. And what a testimony to the faithfulness of God. And when bad news comes, it seems to spread really quickly. I don't think we spend nearly enough time celebrating blessings and good news. And here we are in this pandemic era where it seems like if you literally turn on the news, the only thing you see is bad news. It's something designed to scare you or drive you into a deeper depression, which is happening all across the country. And yet, I don't think we really do a very good job of backing up, taking a breath, and saying, "Wow, thank you, Lord. This is incredible." And in the case of your daughter, obviously, that qualifies for that category. That's incredible. That's awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, I follow something online called Tank's Good News, and that's what it's for. They only report good news stories, and it is so refreshing during this time where you do feel like you just can't turn on the television, if it's the real news, and hear anything other than just doomsday and things that make your heart sink. So I agree that, and thank you for what you're doing, because that's exactly in that same category, which is relaying messages that refurbish and renew your hope and your faith, and and appreciation and gratitude in the good things that are still happening in the world.
So what will define good news regarding Masterminds for you? What are you hoping to hear after you get through talking to me and people start to respond? Because I think in about 20-ish minutes, the first episode will be done airing. What do you want to hear from people?
Here's what's going to happen. I'm waiting for the phone call from GSN that says, "What are you doing in April?" Which means we got picked up for our third season.
Yes, that is the key call to come in, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, hopefully our audience will pay attention. And for those of you who have Game Show Network on your provider, I used to say cable, now it's cable, satellite, internet, whatever your streaming provider.
Anything, right?
Yeah, weekdays at 4 p.m. is when you want to check out Brooke. And while we're talking career stuff, what else is on the horizon? Are there other movies in the hopper?
So it's been, as we know, an interesting year. I've only been able to work twice this year because of Corona, but both times we've squeezed it in before, the shutdowns have happened. And moving into next year, hopefully we'll be doing another season of Masterminds. I have also a series on Hallmark called The Gourmet Detective. And Christmas coming up, the most wonderful time of the year, is one of my Christmas movies that I shot with them. And I'm actually hoping to move into a little bit more of an entrepreneurial role with a business where I'm marrying my passion of children and spirituality. So stay tuned for that.
You will have a vast audience if you can help families who are suffering through all of this pandemic and becoming suddenly homeschool teachers and providers in ways that they never dreamed possible. So I'm glad to hear that that's kind of where your passion is leading you. Brooke, it's been a pleasure to visit with you. And I did not realize that we were actually interrupting the premiere of your show. So I feel extra special. And if your Midwest ratings have dipped a little bit, it'll come back. It'll come back. Yes. Everybody else does. You might as well. Thank you so much. And thanks for sharing your story. It's been a pleasure to get to know you. And hopefully this thing will become huge. We'll be watching.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time. God bless and have a wonderful holiday.